is time for another story. If you're new here, very welcome. If you've been around a while, also very welcome. Take a minute, take 2 minutes, take 5 to get really comfortable. And while you're getting really comfortable, I will tell you that this podcast and all of these stories are supported by patrons. So if you like these stories, they make you happy in some way, and you would like to offer something back and become a patron too, you can do that on patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. And you will receive bonus stories. There are a whole pile of bonus stories there already waiting for you, and a new one every month, and other things which you can read about on the site. And now, I hope that you are really comfortable and ready for a story. Let's begin. Joel picks litter out of the weeds in the car park behind the main street with a claw on a stick, puts it in the black plastic bag he holds with his other hand. It's overcast. The only bright spot in the day is the high-vis vest he's wearing. The clouds hang so low they feel like they're inside his head. Feels like rain in there too. Always does. Not cracked enough to let the light in, he jokes to mates at the pub when they tell him to cheer up. Pick your lip off the floor, mate. You'll fall over it. Can't be as bad as all that. Bad as all what, he thinks, but doesn't say. You don't know. This hole inside me, it's eating me alive. What's your secret? Why aren't you being eaten too? Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. Joel pulls chunks of congealed newspaper from the bottom of the tired wire mesh fence, twisted cans from under the car that's been abandoned so long the tyres are flat, the yellow police aware sticker on the windscreen faded to white. A flash of brilliant red stabs him in the corner of the eye like sticking a knife in the toaster. He was 4, and he never did it again. A woman in a red dress throws her handbag on the passenger seat before folding herself into her car. She reverses without turning her head, leaving Joel alone with his claw and his plastic bag, with the empty chip packets and the cigarette butts, and the dead, scratchy weeds, and the raw, itchy memory of red. Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. Not a job that takes much concentration. Too much time to think. Joel tenses his shoulders, trying to shrink far enough inside himself to seal all the cracks, a futile gesture when the ghost of memory lives inside his head. The last time he saw his sister, she was wearing red. Skinny blonde kid, sticking her tongue out at him through the gap in her smile, so proud of that missing tooth, proof she was going to be a grown-up soon. And then she was gone. Excised. There were no photographs, no lopsided drawings of cats carefully stuck to the fridge, no memories taken out and shared in quiet moments. She did not exist, had never existed, was never spoken of again. He's too young to remember, his parents said, but Joel remembers. He remembers her existence, but he does not remember her name. Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. Joel's missing sister is the exact shape of the hole in his chest. She's an unsolvable mystery. His parents are dead. He thought, he hoped they might have mentioned something, left a message, but after death their silence was absolute, as it had been in life. She was the sunshine, that sister. If she came back, would the sun come out? Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. Joel doesn't hope, can't rewind time. If she came back, she'd be different. She'd be grown. She's gone, and Joel is alone with his claw and his black plastic bag, haunted by a small red ghost. Joel! All his air escaping in a sigh, Joel deflates as Mrs. Doherty pauses on the stairs in front of him and smiles at him over her shoulder. Her shopping bags make her awkward, catching in the railings as she turns. "Evenin', Mrs. D," he says. The concrete stairwell of their apartment block is narrow. Joel can't pass until the ritual of greeting is properly observed, the words spoken in order so that Mrs. Doherty can go into her neat flat with the cheerful doormat and the terracotta potted geraniums out the front and close the door, leaving him free to do the same. Joel's flat isn't neat and bright like Mrs. Doherty's. His flat is just somewhere to be when he isn't anywhere else, but right now it's a sanctuary and it's on the other side of these polite and meaningless words. "Good day then?" she asks. "Can't complain." "You know," she says, and Joel's eyes are dragged up to meet hers as she veers from the script. "I met a lovely young lady today." "That so?" Joel goes still. The motions go through them. She can't hold those bags up forever. He waits, and he doesn't offer to take them for her. "Works at the kitchen shop. You know, that nice place in town?" "Can't say I do." "No." "Well, I suppose you wouldn't. You need a woman in your life, Joel." "It's kind of you to think of me, Mrs. D." Stay quiet, non-committal, give nothing away. Joel is skilled at hiding the panic that rises in his chest until there's no room for breath. Love is a risk. People have a way of disappearing too fast, starting with his small sister in her bright red dress. Every love is an echo of her, ending in absence. If there are warning signs, they're written in a language Joel can't read. His last girlfriend had held his face in her hands, looking for something in his eyes that she never found. "Where are you, Joel?" she asked. Told him he was keeping her at arm's length, but he couldn't even feel his arms, couldn't feel his own hands. Whose hands were these? The last time he touched her was to kiss her cheek and miss, lips brushing her ear, as she got into her car. He only saw her once after that, and he promised himself no more beginnings. The smell of someone cooking bolognese winds up the stairwell, curdling the beer in his stomach. Mrs. Doherty is watching him, and he doesn't want to know what she thinks she sees. "Excuse me, Mrs. D," he says. "I gotta—" He edges forward, wanting to be inside his flat in the silent dark. "You think about it," she says as she turns, graceless hefting of shopping bags, and continues up the stairs. "Night, Mrs. D." The quiet click of Joel's front door shutting the world out behind him is the most beautiful sound he's ever heard. Joel is back in the car park behind the main street with his claw on a stick and his black plastic bag. The morning tastes like the coffee he had for breakfast, same as all the other mornings. He never feels like eating first thing. Breakfast is forever stained with the strained sound of too loud cutlery echoing in the awkward silence that comes when all words are the wrong words, after his sister's place at the table disappeared when she did. Joel drinks his morning coffee standing at the kitchen sink, looking out the window at the weather. It's overcast again, threatening rain, mirroring the weather in his head. Joel pulls up the collar of the dark blue jacket he wears under his high-vis vest and tries to think of nothing, eyes unfocused as he watches the ground for cigarette butts and discarded wrappers, things that don't belong. Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. He follows the trail of wind-blown refuse to the laneway that leads from the car park to the street. The electric stab of something red at the edge of his vision forces his head up, and the sudden shift in focus makes him dizzy. He's standing next to a letterbox set into the brick wall. He walks this alley every week, and he's never noticed it before. His eyes are always on the ground, on the claw, on the black plastic bag. He picks up the red wrapper that caught his attention with the claw, puts it in the bag. He looks up again and studies the letterbox. It has a flap to keep out the weather, and a dent in it, like someone once threw something heavy at it. Above the letterbox is a sign, white letters on black. Complaints Department. Complaints Department of where? There's nothing on the wall to say except some terms and conditions and an empty space for the name of a manager on duty. Joel shrugs, hefts his black plastic bag and turns away, but his feet won't move. The moment feels incomplete. He turns back. Joel leans forward discomfort rising. He's reminded of feeling drawn in for a kiss, and he wants to pull away, but he can't. He pushes open the flap, claw on a stick making the movement clumsy and awkward. He whispers into the darkness, the words echoing faintly back to him. He lets the flap fall and steps back, heat rising in his cheeks, eyes back on the ground. He keeps his eyes down and keeps walking. Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. In the complaints department office, Silas and Simone are playing cards. They're both cheating, Silas with duplicate cards hidden in his pockets, and Simone by using her powers of clairvoyance to see the cards in Silas's hand. Ewan, the assistant manager, is ignoring them both. He looks up. "Can you hear that?" "Hear what?" Simone meets his frown with her own. "Oh," she says. "That." Silas takes advantage of her momentary distraction to switch his entire hand for a new one he has up his sleeve. Joel's whispered words echo around the room like a ghost made of well-armoured misery and heartbreak. "Volunteers?" says Ewan, pretending not to see Silas's slate of hand. "I'll go," says Simone, throwing down a winning hand and grinning at the sour look on Silas's face. He flicks his own winning hand onto the table and she laughs. "Too late, my friend, too little too late. 3-3. In for a tiebreaker when I get back?" Silas grunts. "I'll take that as a yes, you'd like to lose to me some more," says Simone as she stands and lifts her jacket from the hat stand behind her desk that appeared the week before, with a piff helmet hanging from it. No one's owning up to putting it there. The door closes behind her and Silas gathers the cards onto the table, restocking his pockets and sleeves. Claw, bag, claw, bag, claw, bag. Joel's thinking about the sour smell of beer and bodies that is the pub. It feels like the consolation prize, but where's first? Sitting at home with his thoughts for company is dead last. What else is there? Feels like there's something wrong with the world that those are the only options. Do other people have different options? Sitting alone in a restaurant is worse than sitting at home. Where do people go to fill in the time? There's a woman in a long dark jacket coming towards him. Silver grey curls frame her face. She smiles at him like she knows him. She's not wearing red. "Joel?" she says. "Who's asking?" He's usually better at pretending politeness, but the woman in front of him reminds him of Mrs. Doherty, aggressively wanting the best for him. "My name's Simone," she says, and her smile doesn't falter. "You said you were looking for someone." What?" Joel remembers the whispered words in the alley that morning. He remembers wanting to fold them back into his mouth even as he was speaking them, leaving him feeling naive and credulous, his eternal hope another thing out of place to be collected with his claw and disposed of. "You remember?" Simone's gaze is warm. Yeah, I guess I do." Joel feels like he's made of macaroni. He doesn't know how to stand in front of this woman who showed up out of nowhere like she has answers. Could she have answers? Stop it, he tells himself. Too much hope will make you go blind. He looks back down at the ground. "The pub's overrated," says Simone, and Joel feels himself go rigid as she answers his earlier thought. "Feel like a walk?" Joel looks at the car park, at the brighter spot in the clouds where the hidden sun is edging towards evening. "All right," he says, twisting the top of the black bag closed, shouldering the stick with the claw on it. He drops the bag into the next public bin, knowing he should take it back to his truck and not caring. "A dream," he thinks as they walk away from the car park. "This is the beginning of a strange dream." The hum of distant traffic and the footsteps of the woman walking ahead of him say he's lying to himself. There are never any sounds in Joel's dreams. Just flashes of red, always out of reach. Simone slows, so they're walking side by side. Want to talk about it? No, says Joel. There are too many words dammed up over years. If he risks even a drop, the whole thing will wash away and take him with it. Joel kicks at stones as they walk, irritated by the relief he feels when Simone accepts his no and says nothing. The grass on the nature strip is overgrown and going to seed. Trees line the street and they duck leaves hanging low across the path, Joel's claw on a stick catching and tangling. It takes Joel a couple of blocks to figure out why he doesn't trust the woman he's following. Her presence is soothing and she's offering him something while asking for nothing. Why? Everyone wants something. He thinks of Mrs. Doherty cornering him on the stairs and her overbearing goodwill, her desire to see him make something different of himself because she's uncomfortable with the truth of him. Perhaps this woman isn't like Mrs. Doherty. So who is she? And how does she know what she knows? His throat is a bottleneck, and none of the questions he most wants to ask can pass. It takes Joel another 2 streets before he can break the silence. Are we going somewhere? Or are we just going? Not far now. Simone's answer tells him nothing. They round the corner and Joel's body prickles as he sees the cemetery gate ahead. He pushes down the discomfort, willing himself not to feel. He hasn't been here since his father's memorial at just 8 months after his mother's. He hadn't wanted to come to the service, feeling another, older absence more keenly, too busy resenting the dead for their silence to grieve. Through the gate, his feet find their way to the side-by-side plaques commemorating his parents. He looks down. There's a red flower resting between them, fresh, like it's just been picked. The damn wall trembles in his chest. He looks up at Simone, hoping for an anchor in an unfamiliar sea. Come on, she says. Joel follows, like a small child. Simone winds through the cemetery until she reaches the back corner, a place Joel's not been before. There's a gate set into the fence. It would have been black once before it fell to rust. On the other side of the gate is a wilderness. A path leads through the mess of it, winding over roots and around rocks. He can hear water running. Joel feels like he's walking back in time, out of place with his high-vis and his claw on a stick. Part of him wants to turn back, but he can't, not without breaking the dreamlike feeling that pulls him like a toy on a string. The sun has come out and is setting, casting fingers of light through the trees. Joel keeps following. Simone is humming a lilting tune that catches at the edges of his mind. What's that? That song. I've heard it before. There's a flash of red in the trees and Joel stumbles, the moment lost. Simone reaches to steady him. Just about here, I think, she says. Joel turns in a circle, boots leaving prints in the sandy ground. What am I looking for? Don't look. Feel. Feel stupid, he says. What else? Joel sighs, and then he feels something. An ache coming from everywhere. He strains to hear the words he's sure are almost audible over the running water. A laugh? High and delighted. He recognizes the sounds that are missing from his dreams. Joel looks at Simone, wanting an explanation, wanting certainty. She's gone, isn't she? It's not a question. Simone's hand is steady on his shoulder. She's gone, Joel. Gone a long time. And she's here whenever you need her. Both are true. Her ashes, they're here. Her name. His voice is cracked, and the rest of him feels brittle, like the faintest movement might crack him open right there on the sandy ground. I don't remember her name. Charlotte, says Simone. Her name was Charlotte. Joel waits for a flood of recognition, of memories, of anything. It doesn't come. All he feels is failure, a debt to the dead, the duty to remember that will never be repaid. He reaches blindly for Simone, a small boy reaching for comfort, and she wraps him in a hug. The dam bursts. Simone settles into her chair with a sigh. "All right then," says Ewan. Yes and no," says Simone. "You know how it is." He'd been living for closure for so long that when it came, all that other life, the years he hadn't really been living, hit him all at once. Might take him a while to catch up with himself, find his feet again. Says Ewan, going still for a moment, lost in his own echo of being blindsided by time that's still intense enough to make his breath hitch. Poor bloke. There's silence in the office. Silas picks up a deck of cards without shuffling them and begins to deal them out. Despite knowing he's had hours and could have spent the time ordering the cards into the perfect hand, Simone smiles at him and picks up the cards she's been dealt. Thanks for listening and joining me once again in the complaints department. I hope that you enjoyed this story. If you did and you want more stories, perhaps you would like to become a patron. There are many more bonus stories waiting for you there on the site, and a new one arrives every month along with other goodies, which you can find out about on patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story? patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story? Until next time, maybe keep a few cards up your sleeve, just in case.